All right, everyone. We're back. Been a little while. Episode 39. Man, 39. Thank you for all the support. Episode 39 of Stub Love Live. And we have Bryan Lojeski on. And I see that Bryan is trying to join. Let's get Bryan in.
Hey there. Am I upside down or am I right side up?
You're upside down.
Oh, okay. There we go. There we go.
Now you're front. Yeah,
Okay.
there you go. Now we're
Perfect.
good.
All right.
We're good.
Trying to be as hands-free as I can.
Yeah, no, it's great. Appreciate you coming on, Bryan. I see we got some people joining, and I appreciate everyone that comes on and watches it live. I know we get a lot of people that, watch it on treadmills or in the morning, with their workouts.
Sure.
But a lot of support. So we're always happy to have people come on and watch live. So today, Bryan, we're going to talk a little bit about collecting Olympic tickets.
Sure, absolutely.
And I know that's your passion, and it's kind of something that I've dabbled in a little bit. Here we go. What do you think about souvenir tickets from Paris Transit? We're gonna get questions all over the place, but we'll talk some about that too, because I have some questions for you, and talk a little bit about your expertise. But I happen to really like Olympic tickets. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a big collector of them, but I certainly have some ones that I think are good tickets. Certainly big additions to my collection. So tell us a little bit. Let's start out, Bryan. How'd you get started collecting tickets?
Sure. So, kind of the natural progression, cards and going to shows and autographs, and, you go to bigger and better shows, you see more and more stuff. And I was at a show with my dad in Vegas and saw an Olympic ticket from 32. It's like, oh, it's just a really cool looking ticket. And I think it was like $5. So it's like, fine. And, just kind of started from there. And then as, things developed, with eBay, obviously that made, buying and selling a whole lot easier versus the old days when you only could go to a show or, maybe take out an ad in SCD or something. And, eBay just kind of proliferated it. And, I was in grad school and, classes were at night and during the day. It's like, well, let's check out what's on eBay. Maybe I can, knock out some Olympic tickets here. And the thought was, hey, let's just try and get at least one from every Olympics if I could, and preferably a full one if I could. And, some were I was able to knock a bunch out, and then some of them just elusive, could never seem to find one, or you would see one or you'd find out about it after an auction had passed, or that still happens sometimes.
Let me ask you this, Bryan. So sounds like you've been doing collecting of Olympic tickets for a long time.
Right.
And I know from talking to you, you're still kind of, I don't know what I would say, you're still kind of missing some of the ones that you need. And you've been doing this for 20 years.
Exactly, yeah. There's a couple, the 1908 London and 1920 Antwerp, really, 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 really tough. I'd seen one London ticket years ago, and there's a couple of different London tickets. There's some that look like an actual ticket. There's another one that kind of looks like an invitation almost. And the ticket that I saw before was more of an invitation ticket. It's kind of cool looking, but it's not a ticket in how we typically think of them. And 1896, I'd only seen pictures, and kind of was off the radar for a while. And I did an internet search one day. I'm like, oh man, one just ended 2 months ago, and the thing went for 10 grand. But
wow. So that's just so in collecting the ones from like the late 1800s or the early 1900s, you're not even necessarily looking for a specific moment out of the Olympics. You're just looking for any ticket from that games.
Right. Yeah, because some of them are just so tough to even find, and some of them are kind of more general. Like if you look at Paris in 1900 and St. Louis in 1904, they were done in conjunction with the World's Fair, and so you didn't really have an event to that ticket. There's some ways to kind of decipher when that could be, but there's different types of tickets for St. Louis in 1904. Some of them are kind of a strip, like a real small one like this, and some of them are, here's one right that I've got. It's just more of a, long ticket for Louisiana Purchase exhibition, basically.
Wow.
So it's a little bit different. You got Jefferson on the back of it.
Okay. Look at the art on these tickets. They're beautiful.
Right, but again, it's good for admission. Any one of those days between the beginning and the end. So it's not really a pass, but it's a ticket that could be ripped.
Yeah.
For one of those days.
Wow.
So again, and then like with Paris came in a big book, right? But you had a bunch of tickets that looked the same, and you can't really tell what event was what day and things like that. But you start getting into like London, I was talking about London. London's 1908 ticket. This is the pole vault final, and it's so far the only one through PSA. So knock on wood.
That's the only ticket graded by PSA from the 1908 Olympics.
Right.
Oh my.
Right.
Gosh. So what kind of value are we talking, Brian? Because I'm a little bit naive.
Sure. So when you start talking like the 1900 St. Louis tickets, that ticket there I bought a few years ago for about $100, but you can get some of the small little stub ones for $50 or less these days. And they're pretty prolific. Same thing with Paris. That they're not really hard to find. People will say they are, but they're not. Where it gets difficult on the Paris tickets is if you want their entire sheet. It's like 20 tickets. Trying to find an entire 20-sheet ticket, you don't see that too often. But you start getting into some of these like 1908. I mean, you're $4,000 or $5,000.
Wow.
And you're $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for Antwerp, 1920.
Oh my gosh, it's really cool.
Let me turn around this way. Maybe that's better.
Yeah.
So.
And what's the back look like, Brian? Anything on
the back on this one? It's a bunch of. How's your French?
Not so great.
Thank goodness for Google Translate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
That's very cool.
But
so let me ask you this, Brian. One of the things that I have, as a ticket collector and someone who likes the Olympic tickets, but I get a little nervous is, I kind of almost have now positioned myself that I try only to buy them if they're slabbed by PSA already. Mm-hmm. And that's not always the most economical way to do it. Right. But I haven't been burned on Olympic tickets, but I know people who have, because you don't buy the right ticket to the event you think you're buying it for.
Right. Exactly. There's you'll have what they call session tickets, and they still do that to this day. And you'll have a ticket like for athletics, you have track and field. Prime example, 1984, Carl Lewis, 100 meters. There were tickets that were for a morning session, tickets for an afternoon session, also tickets that were good all day as well.
Okay.
So but if you have just the morning session ticket, it wasn't technically good for. It wasn't. You couldn't have seen the 100-meter final with that morning session ticket. So it used to be called Olympedia.org. Is really, really good. You got to dig a little bit. You really got to kind of get in there and figure out. Every time I can kind of fill a slot, it's like, okay, hey, I finally got a ticket to fill that slot. What I'm just happy to have it. What exactly is there so I can put it on the slip?
Right.
So and I'll use that to research it.
So. What's the site again so people can go to it?
It's called Olympedia.org, and it'll take you from there. It'll take you to another link. And basically what it does is it's a really good site. It's kind of like Baseball Reference in a lot of ways, where you can go through. It's like you can look at each Olympics. They'll give you a description of it. You can click on the event. And once you go into the event, it's like, okay, you go, so here's the preliminaries, here's the quarterfinals, and on and on and on, and kind of see, what was it for? It's also interesting too. Sometimes you get into some of these. It's like, well, hey, for athletics, for example, you could have both men's and women's events that day. It could be a men's quarterfinal in one thing, but a women's final in another,
yeah.
or vice versa, right? So, and of course, just like hey, with baseball or football, somebody's debut or somebody gets a gold medal that day. It's like, well, I'm just trying to get all the Michael Phelps tickets or something, and why is it so tough? It's like, well, somebody else got 3 gold medals that day or something. It's something.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've noticed that. And it's one of the things. I'm definitely a novice when it comes to Olympic tickets. I like them. I like to collect them. I have some pretty good ones. But at the same time, Brian, I get a little nervous.
Sure.
I know that I bought a Nadia Comaneci First Perfect 10 ticket.
Hmm.
I don't have it back from PSA yet. But, I was cautious in buying it. I spoke a little bit to Matt Fuller about it. He was kind enough to help. And he said, look, the only way we know that it was the quote, I think, afternoon session is because if you look at the program cites to the fact that Comaneci was, uh, she was going to be actually doing the event for Romania in the
Hmm.
afternoon. So absent the program or someone who actually witnessed the event,
Right.
how are you going to find that out? You're not. But
Yep.
these guys at PSA, they uncover everything and they use every resource possible. But I was happy I had the right ticket. I was very thankful that I had the right ticket because it was one
Hmm.
I was looking for. But even those guys had to use other resources to be able to kind of crack the code.
Oh, yeah, and it's it's kind of nice to be able to help out every once in a while. Like I'll get questions too, and it's like, hey, here's how I understand it. Here's my knowledge. You know, look for a big key is look for the times. Is it you'll see it's like okay 9 say 9 o'clock. It's like well that's probably nine. Usually it's gonna be 9 a.m. not 9 p.m. Right? You'll see another one like 4:30. Obviously probably afternoon, not in the morning.
Yeah.
And kind of go back and backfill it and backtrack it with the other site. So
Yeah. I understand. I understand. So let's show a few Olympic tickets
sure,
more that you have. I mean, I know you've got a lot.
sure,
So let's show a few
sure.
off.
Here's
I'm going to show some too because I like the Olympic genre. I really do.
well, that and the artwork is just so cool too. I mean, 1924 Paris.
Yeah, it really is awesome. I
Yeah,
mean, it really is like a piece of
yeah.
art.
And here's an interesting one: 1936 opening ceremonies in Berlin. So this one is kind of interesting. It's a stub. It's a six. One of the things that's interesting about if you're looking at 36 Olympic tickets, some folks are kind of want to know how do if you're like for example like a suite ticket nowadays, right? Some people value those higher.
Yep.
You'll see on the front here the Roman numeral one. If you can see that, like
Yes,
right here, the
I can see it. Yes.
and then on the back it corresponds to Roman numeral one, so you kind of know what section of the stadium you're in.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
so with this particular ticket, this is Tunnel 12. And so you look at the back, Tunnel 12 in Section 1. Well, that was right kind of by the Fuhrer's box right there for the opening ceremonies,
So
which
you
is
basically were sitting right in front of Hitler.
right. Yeah. Kind of an odd, weird thing, but it's when you start for 36, it's something to look at if you're collecting like track and field, for example. You're going for like Jesse Owens
Yeah.
tickets or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, Brian, I mean, I think that's pretty awesome. I mean, it's horrific that, he was there, but at the
Right.
same time, it's historical. And the fact that you could actually have a ticket from a box, like literally in front of where
Hmm.
Hitler was watching the opening ceremony from, or, watching the Jesse Owens races from, that's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
Kind of neat just to kind of see that. Here's one from 1912. This is shot put final USA sweep Stockholm,
Yeah, it's pretty
which is
cool.
kind of neat.
Yeah.
With the map of the Olympic Stadium on the back.
Yeah.
So I also do Winter Olympics as well. One of the cooler ones is 1928. This is the second Winter Olympics.
That's
It was
really,
basic. You'll see these with the little tags on them
yeah.
because people just have them on their coats. So because most of them were outside. So
And what's a ticket like that go for, Brian? If you
this
got,
1928, you're probably looking a couple thousand. And it's interesting because they say this Canada. It's from the second Winter Olympics, but Canada wins their third gold medal. They did ice hockey in a couple of Summer Olympics before this.
oh, really? Wow.
Or sorry, they did one in the Summer Olympics, but they also did one in 1924, the very first one. So it's like, how can there be the third gold medal in hockey if it's only the second Winter Olympics? Kind of interesting. Kind of
Yeah, it really
interesting.
is.
So, but with the Winter Olympics, I've never seen a 24. Never seen the very first Winter Olympic ticket. I've never seen one. Um, 28. I saw one. I said, oh, I'm going to go all in on this. I don't know if I'll ever see one again. 32s are generally easier to find, but a lot of times you see a pass a lot more. And
I have seen those passes. Yeah.
yeah, the passes they're celluloid, but the tickets themselves are kind of look a little bit different. This is, and if you're going in the set registry, you have to have it for 32. You have to have a ticket. A celluloid pass will not go in the set registry. So the back
Okay.
is kind of cool.
Yeah, these are
Yeah,
really amazing,
yeah,
really artistic. Yeah.
yeah. Versus the the celluloid ones that you've probably seen before.
I have
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
those. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think when it comes to the winter, 24, 28, 36 is a little tough sometimes, and then 48, the first Winter Olympics after World War II, you don't see those too often, and they're very very small tickets. They're just usually like a strip. I think I've got one here. I can find it. Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. So yeah, it's more of a little strip and
Wow.
a lot thinner. So this
Yeah.
was the silver men's slalom
Wow.
from 48.
The idea is just to try to find one in
Trying
good
to find
shape.
one, right? And
Yeah.
you know
And they're
that's the
tough.
cool thing about that's the cool thing about the Olympics. You could say, hey, look, I want to get all the basketball finals, right? Maybe a little bit more easily attainable as they started in 36. But if you're looking at something like wrestling, going all the way back to 1896, it's like, oh, well, good luck finding 1896.
Yeah.
And then for 1900, 1904, trying to find a ticket that would have been wrestling, good luck.
Possible.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah,
So I saw Tom Daly asked about Jim Thorpe tickets, and it's funny. I kind of feel like I'm not really an Olympic collector. I just kind of collect what I think are like
sure.
maybe some of the best ones. And this is Jim Thorpe winning the gold in the decathlon. I picked this up on eBay. I actually bought it from a Chinese seller, so I was a
Yep.
little nervous. But the guy was great. I've now bought a few Olympic tickets from him.
Mm-hmm.
Sends them to me, sends them FedEx. I never have a problem. I mean, it's been a couple of tickets. And, I don't know. I think Jim Thorpe's amazing.
Yep.
For me, Brian, I think he's, legendary. But, maybe we're losing it a little bit to time, the importance of Jim Thorpe, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the Jim Thorpe story is an amazing story. What he did.
Yeah.
And what a competitor he was, and played baseball, played football,
Played everything.
played everything,
Olympics.
and excelled at everything. I mean, he was Bo Jackson before Bo Jackson, you could say.
He really
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
He really was. So I have to say, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And candidly, Brian, I had seen that you had advertised. This was really, I think, even before I was on Boogers,
mm-hmm.
but you had advertised for sale, and I didn't get it from you.
Yeah.
But it was a 1948 Olympic ticket.
Alice
And,
Coachman.
you sit there and you say to yourself, what's historically important from the 1948 Olympics? And who in the world other than Bryan Lojeski would figure this out? But he does figure it out. And it winds up that a woman by the name of Alice Coachman wins the women's high jump during the 1948 Olympics. And you think, well, that's pretty cool that she wins the gold, except she actually happens to be the first African American to win a gold medal.
Yeah.
So, you sit here and you say, what an amazing looking ticket. I mean, it's got just such great eye appeal, but it's so socially, historically important.
Right.
And candidly, Brian, not an expensive ticket, but I think we're both kind of really excited that we've owned them.
Exactly. Yeah. That was exactly it. And for me, that's one that I had, and that was the very first 48 Olympic ticket I had. But I was trying to get a better one, right? I wanted a full, and it's like, well, hey, I can move. And when I finally figured out what it was, I was like, holy cow, this is neat. And I would have thought as soon as that thing popped up, I mean, hardly anybody was even asking about it.
No.
Yeah.
No one asked about it, and I reached back out to you. This is like years later. You're like, no, I think I sold that one. And, I was able to go on eBay and I hunted it a little bit, and I was actually able to get one. And I was just super excited. And I was thrilled that PSA puts that on the flip. I mean, and it just makes a really nice collectible. I asked you, Bryan, as part of, the questions, what do you think are the most undervalued Olympic tickets?
Yeah.
And why don't you tell everybody, and then we can talk a little bit more
Sure. Yeah.
about it.
Right. I think, I still think Jesse Owens is way undervalued. I mean, they're going for a lot more than they used to, but what he did, and there's so many fewer of those, I think, around than people really think. And if you're gonna do it, you got to. I think with Jesse Owens, you got to get all four. If you really all four gold medals, right? You could go really nuts. And you say, okay, I want to get all the preliminaries too. That would be kind of the ultimate, but I still think that they're undervalued. I mean, I think there's some people out there asking a lot for them, but I really think a few years ago you could find those for $100 or less.
Bryan, it kind of comes down to, you think back to mistakes that you made when you collect tickets. And I was really into Jesse Owens. I'm still into Jesse Owens. I like you, think his Olympic tickets are incredibly undervalued. I have some autographs. I really do believe, an American icon when it comes to athletics. And just like you said, I picked up a couple, and shame on me, because I bought these for not a whole lot of money. And if I would have been smart and paid attention, like you said, I just would have kept buying them. I now don't have a set of four. I'm missing two. And now the prices have crept up, and I think they're going to keep going. And
Right.
now it's almost like you get priced out.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah. It's good, bad, or otherwise, right? It happens.
it kind of does. The other thing too is, you kind of talk about Olympic tickets, and you think about some of the greatest athletes that we've ever seen. And one of them is like, Muhammad Ali. And, everyone talks about the Thrill in Manila, the Rumble in the Jungle, the big fights against Foreman and Frazier. And, I think if you were to ask someone, what's the biggest Muhammad Ali moment that they know, they'd probably tell you when he lit the cauldron in the opening ceremonies of '96. But in reality, people don't realize that in Rome in 1960, he wins a gold medal.
That's where it all started.
That's where it all started. And, I don't want to poo-poo this, but I have two of these. I picked these tickets up for under $500 each. And to me, you want to talk about a steal. I'd love to find I'd love to find like Mark Mader has a full sign one, but, I don't have Mark Mader finances. I wish I did. Mark's got a great eye. He's a great collector. But how terrific are those tickets? And you're literally finding like it's Muhammad Ali. It's Muhammad Ali.
It is just like hey, we were talking like Jordan, right? Jordan first time in '84, and then again with the Dream Team in '92. And that '84 team wasn't shabby either.
It really wasn't.
Yeah,
there was a lot of great players on that team.
Yeah. Chris Mullen and Sam Perkins, and Bobby Knight was the coach. Yeah.
It was big. I had to bring this one out today because it's actually the anniversary. Today's October the 16th. Okay. And, this is the Black Power salute, Tommy Smith and John Carlos. And, it's funny. Originally, these tickets, no one could find them. Darren Ravel was the only one that had one. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, Darren Ravel has one. Are there any others out there? And then they started to go for a lot of money, like a lot of money. Now I think they've come down to kind of where they should be, $2,000, $2,500. But it doesn't get any more Olympic iconic than this ticket.
Oh, sure.
So, if you're an Olympic ticket collector, I know it's a little bit more pricey, but it's kind of like a must-have. And October the 16th, so it's the anniversary today.
Wow, how about that? It just and again, so my thing with the Olympics, you can focus, like we were saying, you can focus on anything. One thing that I really like to get my hands on is the '72 basketball gold medal final.
Yeah,
they're just the shenanigans that went on at the end of that game.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. There was a set in Heritage. And, I did bid on it, and it just went a little higher than I wanted. It was a set. It was from the gold final where the Americans were kind of cheated by the Russians and lost the gold. And then there was a ticket, I think, to the gold medal or to the medal ceremony where the U.S. team didn't show up.
Right. And
I
they
think that
still
was
have a
like
big,
a handball ticket or something.
yeah.
Uh,
And I
but
think that,
it also got you into the medal ceremony.
right. And I think the word is, those medals are still in a vault at the, in Switzerland somewhere. They have,
Yeah,
no one's picked it up.
pretty
Yeah.
amazing. Pretty much. So the other topic that I wanted to talk about, we're already
Sure.
going 25 minutes. I
Sure.
try to keep these to 30 minutes, and I say this every time. I could just
Right.
talk to the guests forever.
Yeah.
And I love doing it, especially with stuff that, we're both passionate about. But one of the things that I kind of advertised about this episode was collecting tickets to kind of relive childhood memories.
Mm-hmm.
And one of
Absolutely.
the things, Bryan, that you've done is put together a little bit of a collection of that. So tell us a little bit about,
Sure. Sure. So
what you're trying to relive and what you got.
exactly. So one of those things, baseball was huge between my dad and I. And, I did have quite a few tickets from games growing up and growing up as an Angels fan. Unfortunately, he passed away before 2002. But I do have a game from the very first Angel game that we went to together. It's not our seats, but hey, it's my very first game. And it was a game I went to with my dad. So I'll always remember that. Um, and, it kind of on the book end of that. And, one of the last things we did together, we went to a game. It was a minor league game. But I have our ticket. Now, this is our actual ticket from the game.
Wow, really
But
cool.
again, people are like, who wants what's a Rancho Cucamonga Quakes game from 96? What does that mean to anybody? Well, probably not much, but that means the most to me. So
yeah, those are great. And then the other thing too, you told me, I think those are amazing. Bryan, I mean, nothing gets better than that.
mm-hmm.
I've been to some games with my dad, and I still have some of those tickets. And as he gets up there in years, they become almost more important.
Sure.
Been to a lot of games with my brother, some Super Bowl games.
Mm-hmm.
We went to a Winter Classic. I've now taken my son to some games. So all really important stuff. And those tickets are really valueless, worthless to most collectors, most people,
Right.
but almost like priceless to us, priceless
Right.
to you and me. So I think you also were saying too, you used to chase autographs, you used to go to some of the games. So the idea
Absolutely.
would be, replace some of the tickets to some of those games when you went and did some chasing too.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, I was very, very. I only would have been 1 year old, but I do have Nolan Ryan's 383rd strikeout ticket.
Wow.
And
Really cool.
if we're gonna put the Koufax 382 right next to it, I mean, it's kind of a fun little strikeout record. So oh hey, it's the American League and National League strikeout record. But
And one of the things that I think you've talked about a little bit, Bryan, as far as what you think is undervalued,
mm-hmm.
are not necessarily signed tickets. Although I think you do think signed tickets are undervalued, but your position is playing days, vintage autographs to vintage tickets.
Right.
That hasn't hit yet, and it's going to hit, and it's going to hit big.
It is. If you every once in a while you'll see something. Back in you'll see them pop up. Maybe like a ticket signed by Babe Ruth. It's like, hey, you don't have anything else in your pocket for him to sign. So it's like, hey, have him sign the ticket, and you'll see a Babe Ruth ticket that's from a Yankee game. It's like, holy cow! I mean, it doesn't even matter. He could have gone 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Right.
But I mean, a Babe Ruth on or even like a rookie year Mantle signature. I mean, Mantle's signature, we all the iconic loops and things like that. But those rookie era signatures, you just don't see a ton of those.
And those rookie year playing day signatures of all of these big stars on baseballs and on cards, on baseball cards. Right. I mean, they're going for a fortune now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think I don't know if there are signed tickets like that, but if there are, and Tom Daly brings up a good point, that Lou Gehrig Day ticket, when he gives the famous speech, there is that one signed one. And I think that, sold for almost $100,000 some years ago. We've talked about it on this show, maybe $1 million ticket. So, I mean, I don't want to say that you're a prophet, but I think, at the same time, I do think you're making a lot of sense. I mean, hey, if you had, rookie year, Ricky Henderson tickets signed back when Ricky was a rookie, or Pete Rose tickets from the early 60s when Pete was a rookie, or whoever it might be, I think those are going to be something that are undervalued now and probably are going to hit in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, even if you look at like a signed 3x5, right? Like a Koufax, Sandy Koufax 3x5 card, for example, right? His signatures changed over the years, but you find a vintage one, always sells for more.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it's funny. a lot of people's autographs have changed. You know, Cal
Oh, sure.
Ripken index cards, not really worth all that much, but you get a plain days vintage, you know, early 80s Cal Ripken,
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about a way different thing.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, I think that's probably something for everyone who's watching to think about. You know, if you can find some autograph tickets, I think, especially guys that are no longer with us,
Mm-hmm.
still have a lot of room to go. And if you can find any playing days autograph tickets, boy, Brian, I think you're right on the money.
Yeah.
I think there's a slew of room
Right.
in that genre. So before I let you run, we got to run the gauntlet, Brian.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Gauntlet is a must. So as we always start, stub or full?
Full, preferably, but I'll take a stub if I can't find a full. Yeah, it's kind of if you know the set registry and PSA, I have that in there. It's like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I'll take a stub, but if you got a full, even better.
I understand. Yeah. So PSA, Beckett, or no slab at all?
PSA and no slab. Um, just easier to the boxes I've got them in store easier. The Beckett cases are a little bit more. They're a little thicker, a little sharper edged, and not that it's bad. I just I mean they could put a little bit more on their slip with Beckett, but I just think the registry is so much easier and searchable and
yeah. I agree with you. You know, it's so funny. We talk a little bit. We talk all the time about PSA. We don't talk so much about Beckett because they're kind of newer to the grading of the ticket game.
Right.
But you know, if they really redid the slab, you know, they really redid the slab and they redid the label, you know, the thing could be really good. You know, if you just redid the whole thing, but
Right.
it really could be. You know, I mean, their slabs are a little too thick and a little too boxy, and the labels are a little too small. The writing, and I don't necessarily. They're not all that legible. I mean, they're not all that readable.
Right.
So Beckett, if you're watching, I know, you know, it's probably not a priority for you guys, but if you could fix that, you know, maybe people would use you a little bit more. I don't know.
Yeah.
I might.
Yeah.
Debuts or moments?
Oh, sometimes debuts are moments.
It's true.
So you know, I like debuts, but you know, I think I've probably got more moments in my collection.
Okay.
I mean, I like debuts though. I do nothing. Not gonna can't poo-poo them
Yeah.
at all.
All right. So we'll say both.
Yeah.
A PSA 10 ticket or a PSA Pop 1 ticket?
Pop one always. Again, just look. You know, on the Olympic side, it's like, hey, just find a ticket from any event. Good luck.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So Olympic debuts or Olympic gold medals?
I think the gold medals. I think those are. I mean, nothing wrong to have a debut, but I think it's the gold medal is what you're going to be remembered for. And you know, take the Dream Team for example. Would you rather have their first round game, or would you rather have the gold medal game?
Yeah.
The Dream Team debut of when they played Angola, and Angola got all the autographs afterwards.
Yeah. I want that Angola ticket, but for a different reason. But I do want that ticket. But I agree with you. Gold medals, and you know, I've tried to collect some of the golds, and I think debuts are cool, especially Olympic debuts. But I'd certainly want to have when they're standing on the platform getting the medal. Nothing beats that.
Absolutely.
And I think if you ask those athletes what they appreciated more, I think when it comes to Olympics, they're going to say the medals.
Sure.
Yeah, the medals mean more. An opening ceremony ticket or a closing ceremony ticket?
I'm preferable to opening ceremonies myself.
Can I ask you why?
Because it's the excitement. It's the beginning. You know, there's a much bigger spectacle, I think, always, and the host country is always trying to show off and do their own thing.
Yeah.
And good or bad, you're going to remember them. I think more. I mean, closing ceremonies. I think in recent memories, I think the only one that I kind of remember was a little bit of Beijing when it was going to London, and the bus comes out and like Jimmy Page is playing guitar and stuff like that. Other than that, I don't remember anything about that closing ceremony. I can't remember anything about any of the other closing ceremonies.
I think you're right. Olympic ceremonies for sure. I mean, opening ceremonies for sure at the Olympics. Usain Bolt or Carl Lewis?
Carl Lewis. For me. For me. I mean, I think I'm only a couple years older than you. I mean, nothing against Usain, but I think, you know, what Carl did I mean, he repeated Jesse Owens, and then all the additional gold medals, and he was still doing it in
Yeah.
'96.
Yeah. I didn't expect you to say that, but you're a California
Yeah,
guy,
maybe
so
so.
uh,
Maybe so.
maybe so. So let me ask you this: do you think there's going to be hard tickets at the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles or not?
I am hoping. I've heard talk that they may not, but depending on where some of the events are, some of those stadiums right now are still printing tickets. So, for example, the Angels, they still print tickets, right? There's talk that there could be some baseball in Anaheim, unless, you know, so maybe season ticket holders, if you're there, and they play, maybe you might be able to pick up a baseball ticket or something. And again, I'm really upset about 2024 for Paris. There's nothing out there.
Right. That's what I've
Yeah.
been told. I guess more likely 2028 will be all digital, but maybe because what you said, maybe we'll get a little lucky if some of those venues are printing tickets now. Maybe they'll print for the Olympics
Yeah.
too. Keep our
Yeah. I think you got so many different venues too that I think might be just a bit more difficult. So
yeah,
fingers
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
fingers crossed.
yeah, fingers crossed. Well, Bryan, it's really been a pleasure having you on. I really do appreciate. You're a great guy. We've gotten to become friendly, and I'm really glad that I got a chance to meet you and talk to you and kind of get to know you. Um, Episode 39 of Stub Love Live is done. Thank you so much,
Thank
Bryan, for
thank
coming
you.
on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Howard. A lot of fun.
All right, talk to you. Be well. Bye bye.
Bye bye.